So my first question is, we'll start with the big one, lots of pride. I guess, how does it feel as the current publisher to have the paper still be standing this many years later? Like 110 years is a big deal.
Well, I think there's a little bit of pride in that community newspapers can and do last as long as the community itself. Um, yeah, I'm just pleased that we're still here despite the pandemic.
And I guess, did you want to run through a little bit of your time here, like beginning 41 years ago to present? How has that journey been for you personally?
Well, it's been kind of exciting because I never thought I would ever be a publisher of a newspaper, and so I started here as a part-time position in 1980, November 4th, actually. And when my youngest son started school, so it gave me something to do, but yet I was still home when the kids got home from school. But then, of course, 4.5 years later, the opportunity came to buy it. And so I did. And and here we are 41 years later and still at it, which I did not expect to last this long.
I guess, oh yeah. What were some highlights of your tenure here? Like, beginning right from part-time to now.
In the newspaper itself, there's so much that we did. I think even in the early years when we had a merchants committee and we did bed races and we decorated for the rodeo and we had lots and lots of things that we did. When we had the steam train coming into Coronation, we did medieval days, we did the Piccadilly Circus, and those were a lot of fun times. But I still enjoy coming to work every day, so that's always a plus.
I guess leaning into the whole expansion that happened 10 years ago now, like how has that been a success in your opinion?
Yes, it certainly has been a success. It was driven by our customers at the time who recognized they needed to broaden their marketing reach a lot farther than what the Coronation Review was doing at that time. So it certainly helped us in a lot of ways. We gained the more advertising dollars by doing that. We also gained revenue from flyers, which we had never had before. And flyers became such a big part of especially grocery stores and that marketing. So it was good that we were able to continue the newspaper, although the news hole was smaller, but we did have the revenue that we could maintain that.
Has the paper endured many hardships, many boons? Like, what has that whole thing been like, like the 2008 market crash or the dirty 30s? How has the paper fared throughout all this?
Well, we've certainly had our ups and downs, but I don't think we've ever had a problem too much like it would have been in the dirty 30s. Back in those days, I know the publishers accepted chickens for their subscription. So I haven't got down to where I've had to eat chickens instead of buying my groceries. But I think our best year was probably 1992. And don't ask me why, other than maybe it was coming out of that market crash into in the 80s that we had the economic downturn. And newspapers typically will find that they won't have a good year the first year that the businesses start having a good year. It takes a couple of years before the businesses recognize that they need to spend their marketing dollars. Because it doesn't give them instant results either, but it does take time to build top of mind. And if they've stopped doing their advertising during that economic crunch, then it takes even more market dollars to get up and get going and get really visible again. I think probably, obviously the pandemic was our biggest struggle. Back March 2020, I just wondered, boy, am I going to have a business by the end of March or the end of April? Because all the flyer companies stopped, and certainly the businesses stopped advertising. Quite a few of them were closed. But thanks to the support of the businesses that could, the municipalities that did, they stood behind us. They sponsored some of our kids' page, for example, that gave them an opportunity to still be visible and certainly helped us out. So, boy, I have a huge appreciation for that. And federal dollars. If it wasn't for the wage subsidy, I couldn't have maintained the staff that I was able to. And so that certainly helped the whole business as a whole.
Any final words to share with our readers?
The then editor in 1913 said, a newspaper is a town's way of letting outside people know that it is alive. And it went on to say a guidepost whereby they can tell the town and the cemetery apart. And I think that is a really good saying, because if the town doesn't support the newspaper, both will die.
So, can you give me an approximate number of how many awards have been won since 1911?
Well, I can't really. I do know, going through the papers, that we got a first award that was mentioned was in 1923, when the paper won a national award for best overall paper for that circulation category. And I do know that the very first award we won, it was a national award. It was a photo of the Coronation Amateur Rodeo, and my reporter at the time, Edna Carey, took a picture of Bill Betson in the bareback, and that won a third place in the National Photography Award. Needless to say, we've won a lot more. I sort of counted up the certificates, etc., on the walls, and I think we're looking at over, I know I don't have them all, but I think we're looking at over 30 to 40 awards that we've gotten over the years that I've run the newspaper. So we're pretty proud of that. We certainly have had great photographers and writers throughout all those years, and so I'm happy as publisher. To me, it is a credit to the community. As long as there is a community newspaper and a community that supports that newspaper, both will be strong.